Hey, this is Gecko Mayhem. This is another Godforge video. The Godforge beta is just a few days away. In this video, I want to talk about how to judge a hero by their kit, so that you have the tools to decide whether they're worth building for beta content. New players often make the mistake of judging heroes by their rarity, visual design, or first impressions. I know I did when I first started playing Raid Shadow Legends. I pulled a Seeker early on, thought it was ugly and used it as a resource to upgrade other heroes. It actually took me a couple of years before I pulled another one to use as a key part of a long-term clan boss team. It's fine to ask, does this hero look cool? So long as you also ask what they actually bring to a team and where that will matter. Flashy doesn't necessarily mean useful. Just as uncommon or rare don't automatically mean they're useless. As beta resources are going to be limited, the best players will be smart about who they choose to sink resources into. We may not have control over which heroes we get on our accounts, but if you learn how to think about heroes and what they bring, you'll make better decisions about who to build. The first question you should ask is, what is this hero supposed to do? If you can determine the job they're made for, you can decide whether they could fulfill a particular role. Ask, what is their archetype? What role are they supposed to fill? And does their kit actually support that role? Ask things like, is this a slayer who brings serious damage? Or are they a defender who actually protects the team? At first glance, this might not be obvious, but if you can determine the job they're supposed to do, it becomes much easier to judge whether they can actually fulfill it. Once you've established what a hero was made for, it becomes easier to judge them. If it turns out that their kit doesn't support that job well, it's a warning sign that the hero may not fit in where you expect them to. Start by asking what a hero is trying to be. That will help you to determine whether their kit actually supports that role. Except in the most niche of situations, a hero is not a standalone unit. They're not about what they can achieve on their own. The game has been designed to put heroes together to clear content. So heroes you build need to bring something that your team actually benefits from. There are certain things to look for in PvE content when determining usefulness in a party. Look for what kind of raw damage they output. Is it single target, AoE, multi-hit, or conditional? Whether they can keep the team alive or recover from mistakes. Whether they bring shields, barriers, ally protect, intercept, or defensive buffs. Whether they can block, extend, reduce, or manipulate status effects. Whether they can remove debuffs or disables from allies, or buffs from enemies. And this one's big. Look for whether they affect speed, turn meter, divinity, or overall battle tempo. And finally, look for what direct effects they bring and how impactful these are. The strongest heroes tend to do one of two things. They know their job and do it well, or they fulfill their primary role while adding secondary value to the party. A pure damage dealer might be fine, but a hero who brings damage and debuffs, or support and protection, often has broader value. There are limited spots for any team, so the more clearly a hero helps the rest of your team to function, the more useful they usually are. A hero might look good on paper, but still fit into niche situations. Understanding the content you want to tackle makes it much easier to judge whether a hero really has a place on your roster. Ask, where would I actually use this hero? Think about the following. What do I need to conquer the campaign stages, move to adventure mode, and even delve into heroic progression? Often, getting past the waves in a boss dungeon is a bigger part of the puzzle than tackling the boss at the end. You need to always keep wave clearing in mind when thinking about a hero's usefulness. Dungeon bosses are a great source of resources. You need to ensure you build heroes that will be highly viable against bosses and the mechanics that they throw at you. In beta, the only Rift boss will be Ra. Once you understand how to beat him, you'll be able to figure out which heroes will be extremely valuable when doing Rifts. For some fights, you'll need to make your team tanky enough to last while overcoming mechanics and putting out enough damage. Here is where balancing usefulness for specific content becomes imperative. There may be niche situations where a specific approach ensures success. How will your chosen heroes fair against special situations where brute force may not work. Some heroes are useful within a broad PvE context. They can generally tackle any content. Other heroes sit within a narrow band. They do one thing really well, but don't shine anywhere else. This doesn't make niche heroes bad, it just means they're a lower priority for your account early on. Broader heroes will help you to progress faster and more effectively. Niche heroes are worth building for specific content once you've stabilized and established your account. If you can't form a clear picture of where you will use a hero, they probably shouldn't be a priority for you right now. During the beta, broad value will often beat niche brilliance. Early on, heroes who will help you get through multiple areas of content are usually a better investment than heroes who stand out in one specific setup. This means you often want to prioritize survivability. What do they bring to help themselves or your team to survive? Clearing waves. Do they bring enough to help you clear waves? Debuffs. How are they weakening your foes? Protectiveness. How do they strengthen your team by taking away nasty debuffs or disables, or throwing up a shield, a barrier, or some other form of defensiveness? Turn meter manipulation and tempo. What are they doing to push you along or to hinder the enemy? And battlefield control. What other ways are they able to take control of the battlefield? You'll want these over things like partnerships. Do they function better with a partner? Boss specialists, or heroes who do a very specific thing for one area of content. Any heroes that do well when synergized with certain heroes, or in certain situations, but which you cannot support on your account yet. Niche heroes can be strong for any account, but they are not often the first heroes you'll want to sink resources into, especially over a short-term beta. Early on, broad usefulness tends to beat specialization. Synergy between party members matters for successfully completing content, but consider how much to invest in synergy and to what extent you can support it. Forcing certain synergies may not give you a good return on your resources. Some heroes become stronger when paired with a specific partner because the synergy between them takes them both to another level. There's a certain setup with buff or debuff placement. For example, they may benefit from a debuff but not be guaranteed to place it themselves. Running with heroes from their realm because certain abilities have a realm-specific component. Or there's a certain team makeup that plays to their strengths, so forcing certain matchups creates more synergy. It's good to understand synergy and how it makes heroes or parties stronger, but it doesn't automatically make certain heroes a top priority. Ask, does this hero still look good on their own? Or do they need a certain kind of setup to work to their full potential, or even function well? During the beta, and especially at early game, a hero who stands out as solid on their own is often more valuable than a hero who becomes amazing when you have the perfect setup. Synergy can be great, but independence matters more when you're at early game. If there's good synergy without forcing it, or becoming obsessed with fulfilling certain conditions, you're probably on the right track. Instead of aiming for niche synergies, think about how that hero can play well with other heroes across multiple forms of content. If you think about what you expect a hero to bring to your party, you won't just build them because they're epic quality or higher. Their character model is really cool and the animations look sweet. They come out like a glass cannon, fire their shell and then spend 3 rounds trying to stay alive. Or they bring one interesting or niche mechanic that makes them look flashy each time it's off cooldown. Before you rush to invest in a hero with what few resources you may have at your disposal, answer these questions. What is their job and what do they bring to a team? Where can I actually see myself using them? Are they broadly useful or more situational? Do they work on their own or need a lot of support? Are they better than any heroes I've already built? Here's some practical guidance. Take your time when deciding on heavily investing in a hero, putting resources towards ascending them, fully 6-starring and leveling them, and where you plan to use them during this PvE beta. If you can't see an immediate use for a hero during the beta period, it may be better to hold off on investing in them, or even to turn them into resources that will benefit stronger, more appropriate heroes. The beta is going to be a good time to learn about which heroes are worth investing in, not just where to blindly dump resources. One of the easiest ways to waste your resources is to invest heavily in a hero before you understand the problem they're trying to solve for your account. Before I close out this video, I want to make this practical by looking at a few examples. I'm going to randomly choose 3 heroes, 2 rares and 1 epic. Then we'll bring up their kits and discuss the above points. What is their job and what role are they trying to fulfill? Where would they be useful? What content are they going to shine in? Do they have broad value, or would they better fit into a niche situation? Do they shine best when paired with specific heroes, or can they stand on their own merit? Let's get spinning. I've made a spinner here with all of the realm flags on it, and I'm going to spin it 3 times. Whichever realm flags it lands on, the first 2 will be for a random rare, and the 3rd spin will be for a random epic. I'll then bring up some wheels for each of those realms with all of the heroes of those rarities. We'll spin those all together and we'll see what heroes we land on. Let's go. Looks like Asgard. Okay, the first realm is Asgard. We're going to keep it, so we might land on Asgard again. Okay, so the first rare is going to be from Asgard. The second one is going to be from Virage. And the epic what do we get? Olympus. Okay, Asgard, Virage, Olympus. I'm going to create the other wheels from those 3 factions. We'll bring them up and we'll spin them off. Okay, I've set up all 3 wheels. On the first wheel we have the Asgard faction rares. On the second we have the Virage realm rares. And on the third one we have the Olympus epic heroes. Let's see if I can remember the names of all of these heroes after I spin them. I don't know why the first wheel is not spinning. I think it's because I put the background on twice. Something like that. But, technicalities aside, let's spin all 3 wheels at once and see if it tells us who we get from each. Whoa, that's super cool. Okay. From the Asgard faction we have Aslaug. From the Virage faction we have Maria Marevna. And from the Olympus faction we have the epic hero Achilles. These are the 3 that I am going to break down according to the bulleted list that I put up on the screen. Starting with Aslaug here, I'm just going to hop in and take a look. We'll break down the kit and then I'll talk about what role they're trying to fulfill, whether it be useful, what content they would work well in, and things like that. So let's take a look. Aslaug is an invoker. That's really all we need to know. She's Cunning Affinity and Chaos Allegiance. Those don't really come into play when deciding on whether to build a hero at this point. So the fact that she's an invoker, so we know what her job is. Her job or her role is to keep her team alive by bringing some sort of healing or anything that supports the team. Looking at her kit, I'll just go over it as fast as I can. So her basic, as with a lot of invokers, is just an attack. Each hit places speed up 1 on a random ally. That's not bad. Speed up 1, you are going to go a little bit faster. One of your team members is going to go a little bit faster. Kind of handy. Block debuffs on all allies and increase their turn meter. That's actually massive. That's strong. I'll talk about that in a bit. Ultimate. Place Stalwart on allies from Asgard. So that's one of those niche things or those synergy things. Then increase the turn meter of all allies by 15%. And a passive is whenever an ally block debuff activates. In other words, if the enemy team tries to place a debuff on you and it activates your block debuffs, they get a turn meter push. She's got some Awakening here, increased Divinity by 10%. Looking at this overall, her job as an invoker is to support her team in some way. And she does that. She places block debuffs, she places speed up. It's only on one. She places stalwart. It's only on Asgard. But if the block debuff activates, that's a further turn meter push. So she's trying to fulfill that role of pushing turn meter and blocking debuffs. Two functions there. Where would she be useful? She'd be useful in all of the PvE content, because you're going to get debuffs. The enemies are going to try to place debuffs on your team. So she's going to be able to block those, and if they activate, it's going to push their turn meter. So that's basically any fight. Wave content, dungeons, campaign waves, and the stages within campaign. So she's going to do well as a support hero in PvE content. Does she have broad value, or would she fit into a niche situation? She actually has broad value. She isn't just niche. Now, the ultimate, with its Asgard consideration here, is a little bit niche. The fact that I'm not going to get stalwart on all of my allies, it kind of sucks. But she does push the turn meter of all allies, so she is speeding your team up, so she does fit into a broad situation. She has broad value. And does she shine best when paired with specific heroes? She does shine best when paired with Asgard because of that stalwart buff, but she is actually a hero here who stands on her own merit and brings significant value to any team. So for Aslaug, I would build her. Next we have, from the Virage faction, we've got Maria. Maria is a slayer. That's her role. Her role is to bring damage. Looks like her picture is not loading for me. But we'll move down and we'll take a look at Maria's kit and decide, perhaps because, actually, sorry, as an aside, perhaps because the website is currently undergoing an update, stats have been adjusted, kits have been adjusted, they're in the middle of removing the divinity generators from everybody. That's possibly why things are not loading, because things are always moving and changing. Maria's basic. Place an extra hit if the target has 3 or more buffs. Okay, so she hits really hard, and then she does an extra hit under a condition. Her core is an AoE, which does significant damage. It ignores shields and barriers. That's strong. If you're ignoring shields and barriers, great. Ultimate. Attack a single enemy, but it's a massive attack. Reduce the defense of the target, can be up to 10% defense every time she does her ultimate. After she's done 5 ultimates, she's reduced a target's defense by 10%. And then her passive, increased damage inflicted by 3% for each buff on the target. So not only is she going to do 9% extra damage against a target with 3 buffs, she's going to place an extra hit. Okay, we know what her role is. She is there to bring damage. What kind of damage? Single target and AoE, right? Where would she be useful? Looking at her kit, she would be useful in all PvE content. She would also be useful in PvP, but we're not going to talk about that because the beta does not include the arena or any PvP content. In terms of beta content, she could be useful in just about all of it. She could be useful against bosses, the waves leading to bosses, campaign, perhaps even, although we don't know the mechanics of the Ra fight in the Rifts, she could also be useful in that, especially if he is placing lots of buffs on his team and things like that, or his team is placing buffs. It could be significant. So anywhere that there are buffs being placed, she is shining even more, right? So useful in all of those areas. Does she have broad value, or would she fit into a niche situation? In terms of her core, it's a little niche because it ignores shield and barrier, but when you think about it, it's actually really broad. She is doing an AoE that says, hey, look, you've got a shield or you've got a barrier, and I'm just going to ignore that completely, and you've got buffs, so I'm going to do more damage, which is actually very good. And if you get off her ultimate, she's reducing their defense as well, so that she can do even more damage. Does she shine best when paired with specific heroes? Nope. She stands all on her own. You bring Maria into a team as your key slayer, she is going to bring some pretty significant damage. She does her job and she does it well. Would I build her? Yes. I think she is going to be significant in the beta because it is all PvE content. I think the fact that she is often going to do that extra hit on her basic, because you're going to have a lot of buffs on the team, the enemy team, especially as you get deeper into the content and they're just throwing up buffs left, right and center. Before you strip those buffs, use Maria to actually come in and do more damage, ignoring shield and barrier. Pretty massive overall, depending on what the wave makeup is and if they're placing shield and barrier, and extra damage depending on the buffs. The conditional or niche part of this is that she ramps up damage according to the buffs on the target, but she's just going to bring significant damage regardless. It's just the icing on the top is that extra damage. So yes, as I said, I would build Maria if I got her. So that's 2 for 2. Let's look at Olympus now, and we are looking at Achilles, Mr. Achilles. Achilles is also a Slayer. So that's his job. His job is to do damage. His kit, attack an enemy, reasonable attack, it doesn't seem terribly high, with a chance to place 3 stacks of bleed, right? If he doesn't place it, if that chance doesn't go off, he's not going to place any bleeds. Otherwise it's 3 full stacks at once. Okay, so he plays into the whole bleed mechanic. We know this about Achilles. He places attack up and sharpen up 2 on himself, and he gains an extra turn, which is quite nice, being able to get an extra turn, right? On his ultimate, he removes the bleeds, and then he attacks 3 times. So it's a single target and a triple attack. He does extra damage for the bleeds that are removed. Playing into that whole bleed mechanic, removing bleeds, doing more damage. His passive inflicts 20% increased damage to enemies under bleed, but receives 20% increased damage from enemies under bleed, which is quite dangerous because he's a bit of a glass cannon, right? Like most Slayers, and you need a way to protect him. So on his own, he's not going to have a good time of it. He's going to be a little bit flimsy. He could be pushed over. So his job is a Slayer to do damage. He's trying to fulfill that job. Where would he be useful? I think he'd be a lot more useful in either Arena, where if you can stack up a lot of bleeds, the enemy is just going to take significant damage, or against bosses where, because of the way that bleeds function, you're going to tick away at the boss's health a lot more. Does he have broad value? I don't think he has broad value. He's not bringing enough damage, and he's a little bit flimsy when you look at his passive. His ultimate is okay if you can get lots of stacks of bleed up, then he's going to do a massive ultimate attack, but the multiplier at the moment is not that great. The fact that he does a triple attack is pretty good, but I don't think he's good for wave clearing. I don't think he's good against every boss. I don't think he's going to be good against every boss. So he has a bit of niche value. Does he shine best when paired with specific heroes? I think he does. I think he relies on another hero who can place bleed in order to do well, because you're not guaranteed to place bleed on his basic, and he's removing that bleed all the time. Now the fact that he places attack up and sharpen on himself is excellent, and that he gets an extra turn, then he can go in and do his basic attack again and try to put more bleed stacks up. So he is increasing his damage, and he's probably bringing in significant damage, but I don't think he stands on his own as well as some other heroes. Would I build Achilles? Probably not, unless I needed to place bleeds on a particular boss. But I would put him aside. I wouldn't use him as a spirit. I wouldn't turn him into a spirit or an imprint. I would hang on to him, but he would not be a priority for me to build in the beta. But 2 out of 3 is not bad, right? So that was an interesting exercise. Spinning the wheels, choosing some random heroes, going into their kits, looking at their use case, and actually deciding whether I would build those particular heroes or not on an early account. Interesting outcome right there. Your roster isn't just dependent on pulling lots of heroes. Like with the example that I provided, you would do well to learn how to judge heroes, to decide whether you want to invest in them, or whether you want to put them aside for later. When you look at a hero, ask yourself, what is the job or role they're supposed to fulfill? What do they actually bring to any given team? Where can I picture myself using them? Where do I think they'd work well? Do they have a broad use, or do they seem too niche? Do they need too much setup or support from other heroes? Is it worth investing resources into them right now? If you can read hero kits properly, you'll make better decisions about your account, avoid wasting resources, and progress faster with a stronger account. I'm Gecko Mayhem, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.